That's great. All right, Psalm 127. Let's call this week's set of lessons. I don't know. That won't be the official title, but I really did not see a consistent theme in this week's set of chapters. That doesn't mean a theme isn't there, but maybe I'll see it as we go through these 7 chapters. Maybe you'll see it, and maybe it just doesn't need to be imposed on these 7 Psalms of ascents, understanding that after we left Psalm 119, Psalm 120 that we picked up last week began what is sometimes called the Psalms of Ascents. And we can, if nothing else, call it that, meaning we're looking at some of the Psalms of Ascents. But let's call Psalm 127 vain, because this is a famous Psalm of Solomon that goes, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen watch in vain. It is in vain that we rise up early and go to sleep late, eating the bread of anxious toil, as he will go on to make a shift that doesn't necessarily, at least to me, seem like it's completely consistent, at least for me until I went back through it a few times. And that shift is going to go on to talk about how the person who has his house filled with children, I'm going to ad lib, good kids, is actually blessed. And I think the consistency is this. When he is talking about this whole concept of vanity and trying to build our lives or build a productive life without God, he is talking about the ways in which we really need God in order to build an effective home, to watch out for the environment or the city in which we are living or trying to build that home. And then ultimately, we need God to bless both our labor, thus waking up early and going to sleep late, or the home or the relationships within our home. We need him to build, watch, and bless all of those things. Otherwise, we run the risk of laboring in vain, which made me think of this illustration. A while back, there was this show called Pros versus Joes, where average Joes got to test their skills against professional athletes. And even though that show might have been canceled, every now and again, you can find some random Joe on YouTube either trying to fight a professional fighter, play ball against a professional NBA athlete, or fill in the blank, and finding out the hard way why there is a difference between us and them, meaning professionals. And so every now and again, I'll find a video by a guy I used to like to watch named Charlie Zelenoff. I like Charlie because he had a whole lot of courage, if not necessarily a whole lot of what we will call common sense, because he tried to fight Deontay Wilder, a famous fighter, one time, and that didn't go so well. Got another more recent video by a young man named Sneeko, some kind of content creator who wanted to fight Sean Strickland, an MMA fighter. That didn't go so good. And then we got Brian Scalabrine, an ex-NBA player who got tired of taking all the heat from people saying he was a garbage NBA player, and basically broke down and said, look, not only was he going to post a video saying he's a whole lot closer to LeBron James than any average Joe is to him, he went on to make content showing or illustrating that point and basically helping all kinds of average Joes put their dreams and ambitions in perspective. And the thing that reminded me of is the way in which we can likewise believe that we can build our homes in a healthy environment and create peace in those environments, without realizing that God is actually the pro at controlling all the variables that are essential, not optional, but essential to creating the peace that we sometimes take for granted. Why? Because he frequently blesses us with enough stability to make it seem like creating a happy life is within our reach. And therefore, we begin to think that we really don't need him. The mistake that we're making is much like those Joes do not fully understand all that goes into performing at a professional level. Sometimes in the pursuit of happiness, we forget all of the practical variables that go into actually creating happiness. Thus, the wisdom in Psalm 127 seems to be in Solomon, quite possibly Israel's wisest king, realizing that unless the Lord builds, watches, and blesses the work that we're trying to do, we are like average Joes trying to fight a lifetime of professional problems.